This woman thought she was going to the well to just get water that day, to get something that would be a cleansing agent. Water washes us, keeps things clean. Something to sustain her temporarily in the physical. But Jesus knew that more than water from a well, she needed water from the well, the eternal life source, the soul cleansing agent. Something to sustain her in the spiritual and in the deep end of her heart. We have to stop drinking from a well and drink only from the well. A well will run dry. The well will fill you up till you overflow. It said, what did it describe it as? A bubbling wellspring, a fresh bubbling spring from within them, giving them eternal life. A well will let you date them, spend your money, waste your time, confuse your mind, and use your body. But the well will satisfy your soul in the deepest places. A well may fill your bank account, get you the attention you crave, but the well will store up treasures for you in heaven that will not corrupt or depreciate in value. So what wells are you drinking from? Let's not skip over that question. Let's let it hit us deep this morning and not be afraid to face it. I'm sometimes afraid to have that question asked of myself because I don't really want to hear that it's anything other than Jesus, because I sort of know what the truth is. So let's face that question this morning. What wells are we drinking from? If you picture a plate with the protein of your choice and some sides, veggies or chips or salad, whatever your preference is, you've got this plate of food, and then you've got some dipping sauce on the side. Sometimes we treat God like dipping sauce. We've got the food, what we've chosen to consume, whatever it is that we want to keep us going, whatever it is that we want to enjoy and consume and put into our lives. And then we just dip it in the sauce every now and again. We'll pour the sauce on top when we don't like the taste of what's facing us. We'll just dip into some Jesus in between, or add a bit of him on top of things every now and again when we're not feeling satisfied. St. Augustine said this: Christ is not valued at all unless he is valued above all. Christ is not Lord at all if he is not Lord over all. There is no small measure, there is no dipping sauce on the side. He's the whole thing. He is the well. God satisfies us. He's the living water that satisfies. He satisfies in a way that we can never even comprehend, in ways we don't even know that we're looking for. He satisfies. And he satisfies us in the desert and beside still waters. In those times of hardship, fear, difficulty, loneliness, hardship, disappointment, rejection, pain, suffering, sickness, hurt, where you don't know if you want to wake up the next day, maybe. Those times of emptiness, those times of grief, of loss, of betrayal. God will meet you there in the middle of it. He will meet you there. And you know why he'll meet you there in the middle of it? Because he was there all along. It's not that you needed to ask him to come. He was there the whole time. But he's there with you right in the middle of it. I've experienced this in my life time and time again, where he's met me in the middle of the desert. And I could spend my time questioning, why was I in the desert in the first place? And sometimes it's my own choices. And sometimes it's nothing that I did to ask for it. no sickness. I never asked for that. I could spend my time questioning why God didn't take the desert away, or I could instead go, but God, this is an opportunity for me to know that what I believed in the light is true even in the dark. This is an opportunity for me to see that you truly satisfy, that I never needed the health or the circumstances or the friendship or whatever it was I was looking for and that was bringing me happiness. I never needed that to satisfy me. Maybe those things are not wrong, but they're not what was satisfying me. I thought they were. They were wells for me, maybe. But this is an opportunity for me to see that you truly satisfy, even in the midst of the desert still being there. That you were there for me right in the middle of it. He is the living water that truly satisfies. Satisfies. He's not just plugging holes or putting on a Band-Aid on the pain that is the loudest at that moment. Satisfying is filling to overflowing in the places we didn't even know we were looking for it. He satisfies. He satisfies. You know, on Mother's Day, I think about a time that was really hard for us when we lost a baby. And I was in hospital and I had to have emergency surgery and they had to remove parts of me as well to save my life as well. And it was a really hard time in the hospital. But instead of questioning why I had that desert moment, I'm grateful and overwhelmed actually at how God met me in the middle of it. Just a week before, someone who loves God, but is not even that close a friend, went out of their way to suggest a book to me that I thought was really odd to read about how a woman lost her child. And I thought, I felt to read it. And I had it with me when I went into emergency. I didn't know I was going to have all that time to read it. And gosh, that book helped me through the whole time. I finished it while I was there. And gosh, that was a gift from God before I knew I needed it. When I was waiting for the ambulance to come get me, he put 2 songs in my heart that just played on repeat and silenced any fear. He was there with me in the middle of it. And then when I was in there having scans and about to go into emergency surgery, I felt a physical hand on my shoulder the whole time, letting me know he's with me. And I'll never forget that. He met me in the middle of it. Another time when I was sick in high school, I couldn't go to a lot of school time, but I had exams, and I was well enough to go to the exams, but wasn't well enough to be there for any of the lessons for the content that I needed for the exams. So I prayed, and I had the textbook to study, but it's a big textbook, and I didn't know which pages would be in the exam, and I couldn't read the whole thing, so I prayed. So God said, read these chapters, and they were the exact chapters in the exam. God met me in the middle. Just a little thing to remind me, hey, I've got you. Not a big thing, but just to remind me, because he was there the whole time. But sometimes when we are okay to just get by with the wells that we dip into, we forget that he's there the whole time, and we forget that there's so much more than just the wells that we go to. But then when some of those wells are not there or are not enough for the situation that we face, that's when we go, oh, I need the well. But I want to make sure I've got the well even when I'm beside still waters, not just in the desert. And that's why it says in Psalm 90, verse 14, satisfy us each morning with your unfailing love. Each morning, the start of the day, because we have to start off satisfied with God. We need to be filled with God, because then we won't have gaps that we turn to other wells to fill to make up for perceived shortfall. If we go to the other wells first, we will have gaps, and then we'll go to God as the dipping source and say, God, can you fill the gaps? And if we're being honest, we do that all the time. And when we fall short and we come to God to just fill gaps, rather than say, God, it's you and I just want you and you can have it all, it means we haven't understood his extravagance towards us. C.S. Lewis said, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. If you're in a desert season right now, I want to remind you that God satisfies. Turn to Jesus to carry you through. If you do that, you'll get to the sweetest place where you're able to say, God, having you matters more than you taking this away from me. And when you get to that place, that's a place of freedom. That verse, Psalm 90, verse 14, goes on to say, only you, God, can satisfy our hearts, fill us with songs of joy to the end of our days. Let me tell you, he satisfies completely. He satisfies completely. And it satisfies in ways we didn't know we needed or wanted, because until you see the ocean, you're happy to play in the paddling pool. You just haven't seen the ocean yet. So ask God, God, what more do you have for me? Because there's more. There is always more.